Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you!
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion is advised.
You talk about extreme.
And I run into this Smith family magical relics. The church doesn't deny their existence. They just try to make it seem like, oh, no big deal. Well, we're going to show you. You can decide for yourself. In the pouch that he carried on his neck would be these lamens. And these are faraway pictures. I've got some better ones. And these are grimoires. This is the actual photo of it, and it's not very good, so I have a color-coded, but I wanted to show these first anyway, and I'll show you what the others mean. So all these parchments likely belong to Joseph Smith Sr. and Joseph Smith Jr. However, Joseph and Hiram died together. Do you know how they died? Should I tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure he was getting jiggy with all the guys' wives and pissing a whole lot of people off in the area because he was implementing polygamy. And with the polygamy thing, like I said, he saw the angel Moroni after a fit of darkness. Have you ever heard any other religions that sound like that?
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
All things continually lead back to serpents, dragons, fairies, Nephilim, and fallen angels.
In the distance looms a mystical mountain.
As Mike Heiser used to say, if it's in the Bible and it's weird, it's probably important.
At its peak, a great fire burns, concealing the Prometheus Lens.
This development of this knowledge that's being talked about within the mystery schools.
An ancient artifact said to reveal the hidden truth within a deliberately darkened world.
There's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world.
Join us as we travel and explore the vast unknown. It's a hero's journey with dragons to slay, damsels to save, and innumerable treasures to hoard. Torches high.
The Smithsonian, they caught wind of a giant skeleton. They would send their agents out to get it.
But it takes courage to move forward, to move out of the shadows, out of the unreality that we think of as reality.
We are all on the hero's journey.
Mankind has been in contact with and influenced by extraterrestrials.
Leave the Sitchin mound of bull feathers out of it.
You know, look at it from a different perspective.
Hey, what is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we are about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Justin, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Hey guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Down below we'll have our socials. Be sure to check us out on our various platforms, and that would be much appreciated. Well, guys, I am back from the heels of Blurry Con, and it was my first time going, so I had a really good time. Made a lot of great connections and stuff. If you follow me on the social medias, you've seen all the pictures and clips and stuff, so you kind of had a little bit of backstage access. I even got me a confessionals hat. Shout out to Tony. But with all my excitement, I broke my golden rule. I'm that guy that always tries to honor his arrangements and not double book people and cancel on people. And this woman that we have on the show today, I did it. Now I apologize to her probably 100 times. I booked her while I was out of town, but she was gracious, and she didn't cuss me. She didn't send me a bunch of middle finger emojis, so I'm so thankful. But I was on this woman's show, so I wanted to have her come on and tell her story. She's got a great presentation for you today. But I'd like to welcome to the Prometheus Lens for the first time, Heidi Love from the Unfiltered Rise. Thank you, Heidi, for all your kindness and gracious with me.
Of course, I knew it wasn't nefarious. And, you know, accidents happen, and I've done the same thing before, like I was telling you. So we always hope for a little grace, right? Like, we get busy, and I get it. Totally get it. And I saw your pictures at Blurry, and I thought, I bet he's busy today. So, because I saw day one was something like really awesome, and I thought, I think he might be out of town. So, no biggie. We got it done. We're here today, so it's all good. Yeah. Sounds like a great time, though. That sounds like a fun
I had
time.
a real good time. And I tell people, you know, I don't try to sound arrogant or nothing, but it's just like I've been deep dive studying for so long and going to these conferences for so long. A lot of the stuff they talk about, I'm pretty familiar with. I mean, I walk away with nuggets from these things, but that's not my motivating factor. You know, my motivating factor is to meet these people face to face, shake their hand, make connections, have the conversations with the people that listen to the show and have other shows. It's just the whole community thing. That's what drives me, and we had a really good time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I wish there was more. I think there used to be, probably before the 2020 business, but from what I was told from a lot of people, that they used to have a lot more get-togethers and fun things. But I would go for the same reasons, you know, see the people in real life that you talk to all the time or whatever, or listen to their shows. So it sounds like a fun time to me. Yeah.
Well, Heidi, before we get into it, just give everybody a synopsis of who you are, what you do, what you're into, and a little bit about your show.
All right. Well, I'm Heidi Love. I'm from the Unfiltered Rise podcast, and I was a Mormon for 34 years. And once I got out, I wanted to know what I did. This whole journey, really, I never planned to be a podcaster. I didn't think I'd ever be on a podcast. I love podcasts. Shout out Josh Monday. I sent him something about a school, and I said, you should do a show on this because this is weird. And he's like, you should do a show on this because you live there. And I said, what? I don't do. I remember being so stupid. Like, I was like, oh, he sent me a voice thing. Like, and now I just know him, right? Like, I was like, yay, but it was dorkified, and I was all excited. Like, oh my gosh, he's such a good podcaster. And he's like, no, come on. And I had my son's puzzle light. I had my phone. That was it. I never thought I'd do it again. I thought it was like a one and done. Like, oh, I was on a podcast once. Da, da, da. And he's like, hey, you said something about being a Mormon. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I'm not anymore. And he's like, well, you should come on and talk about that. I'm like, why? Who would want to? Why? And he's like, because it's interesting. People want to know about it. Well, I live in Utah. So I'm like, everybody knows this. What are you talking about? And he's like, no, nobody knows this. So I went on and told him some things that I found out. I'd been studying because God put it on my heart. I just said to God, like, hey, I think I did some stuff that I didn't really mean to do. And like, I just want to make it right. And I'll do anything to make it right, God. You know, like I was studying the Bible. I just want to make it right. I want to erase the oaths that I took and there, you know, in the temple and everything. And God was like, you're going to do this podcast. And I was like, I know 5 people in the world. What do you mean? Like, who's going to listen to me? Like, if I'm on somebody else's platform, that's different. But like starting my own stuff, I'm almost 50 and I barely know how to use the computer on a good day, right? Like back then, I cried my first 6 shows because I couldn't figure out how to do anything. I was like, this thing. And then, I upgraded to better equipment and a computer, different programming and editing tools and stuff. And I was shocked. I actually was shocked how many people would want to know the story. And I think, you know, all glory to God, because that's all the reasons why. And honestly, I just wanted to fix it. And I think if I can help even one more person that's like myself, whether it be coming out of any cult type religion, I'm sorry, that's what it is. People get mad at me for that, but it is what it is. I was in it. It's culty. We're going to show you that today. So if I can help them, then God's done his job through me. So that's good enough.
You're like Jack Black and Lucha Libre walking around with your bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes, because I'm like, are you sure about this? Like, I'm just a nurse and a mom. I got 6 kids. I was like, I don't think I was like, you better check again up there, but I guess he knew what he was talking about. So
I'm worried about your salvation and stuff.
Yes, exactly. I was like, oh man. Yeah. Who knows? Baptizing people.
Well, how old is your show, Heidi? How long you been doing this?
I've just been doing this a little over a year. So about a year and 4 months is all. And so it took off, and I've hit the circuit and done most all the shows, and it's been fun. I mean, not that there's not always more, but in our groups, in the normal groups, and I'll keep doing it. And I do another show with Paranoid American called Monthly Mormon Monday. It's pretty funny. He has a lot of questions about Mormons that I would never, ever think to ask. I'm like, what? Like, why do you want to know this? And he's like, I don't know. I just want to know about Mormons. So we do that show too. It's pretty funny. So
that's awesome.
I ended up on like 3 or 4 shows, like monthly now. I'm like, how did this happen? But it's fun. I actually like it a lot.
Yeah, you said yes, and the Lord took care of the rest, man. That's how it works.
I was shocked. I was like, wow, okay, I guess we're doing this thing. And my husband was like even more shocked. He was like, oh my gosh, you're doing this a lot. I'm like, sorry, dinner's ready. I'll be up in a bit. Yeah. So there we go. And that's how it started. But I knew as a Mormon, ex-Mormon, and sometimes I'm going to say, I was a Mormon forever. My family settled Utah. What they were like, even my DNA says Mormon Utah settler. So not getting away from it anytime soon, as far as like the collaboration, I guess, of being around Mormons. But sometimes I still slip and say, I'm not a Mormon. If I say we, I mean they. So I thought, if I do not make a slideshow or something with some receipts, kind of like Brandon Kroll does, they're never going to believe me, because I know how Mormons feel. I know how they think. I know if somebody showed me this slideshow even 10 years ago, I'd have been like, you're full of crap. Totally full of crap. And then it's all stuff you can easily go research. I didn't find this in the deep depths of the universe of the internet. Like, I'm not on the dark web.
The theological dark web.
Yeah, no. And I mean, my next shows, maybe, some of my other shows, and I do quite a fair bit on controversy and, different conspiracy theories. And I'm just kind of a Jill of all trades, to be honest. 2020 broke my brain, and I just went, everything is fake and gay. Like, I don't know anymore, right? Like, it takes one thing to mess your head up and open your eyes, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like, I think everything is fake, right? Like, and so it's been a journey for sure. It's been weird.
Yeah. Well, kick us off, Heidi. So is it just a generalized presentation on Mormonism, or is it like more detailed, specific in a certain area?
This is going to be pretty darn detailed, because plain old Mormonism, nobody really wants to hear that unless you're in the FLDS or something, because the FLDS is a faction of polygamy. Most people, I know that's going to be weird for 1 minute. Most people know about the polygamy part of this, which, I mean, I get it. It's interesting. So yeah, but this is the basics as well. So tell me if the screen cleared up and you just see a regular one picture now. We good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So to understand Mormon theology, you have to have a little bit of basis. And so I do give a little bit of history here. And this is the church photo that's hanging in every Mormon church ever. And this is what we call Joseph Smith's first vision. And if you don't know much about Joseph Smith, he says he prayed to God and he wanted to know which church to join. And God said, none of them, because I'm going to show you the way, basically. But before he had this happen, he had a fit of darkness overcome him. This is important to remember. And it swirled, and the blackness swirled around him, and he kind of passed out, and he opens up his eyes to this. Now, most people will tell you either this is a complete lie, as far as like everything in my presentation that's going to come forward, or that he was on drugs, right? Like, that's what most people think of Mormonism if they are not a Mormon. And I think if he was using drugs, it was probably for a specific purpose, but I do not believe that is what happened to him this day. He really did say he saw God the Father and the Son. When you're a Mormon, you believe that God the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit are all three separate entities. So he saw two of the three this day. And then God said an angel would come to him if he did all these certain things just right and talk to him about the true religion of what should be in the world. So basically, he's the hero story. He's going to save the world with, finding these old golden plates. And the angel Moroni, now notice they call him an angel. The angel Moroni directs Joseph Smith to the plates, okay, and it's of the Book of Mormon, and they're in a hillside called the Hill Cumorah. It's kind of really more, it's like a tiny mound, really, and it's not too far away from his house. And so, anyways, backstory on Angel Moroni, it's hard to be an angel when you're a dead guy. So this is going to play into everything that I'm going to tell you pretty significantly later, because the angel Moroni was once a man and he lived here on earth. Okay, well, we all know that angels never had bodies, right? And so it's kind of impossible to be. This is also Angel Moroni on top of all of the temples playing a trumpet, which if you know anything about magic is hysterical, but we won't go there today. Okay, so he is the one that basically the whole church is founded off of, because he's the one that gave these magical golden books to Joseph Smith for him to translate. Well, the other thing we have to know is a little bit of backstory on Joseph's family, because remember, he was a 14-year-old boy when that story took place that I just told you, but he didn't get the plates that day. It took some time. It kind of was this fun little cat and mouse game for a few years. And so during this time frame, Joseph, when he was young, he had a really bad infection and it went to his leg. And he was super sick and he spent a lot of time in the house, and it left him with a pretty severe limp. In fact, he almost had his leg cut off. His mom, Lucy Mack Smith, was known as a healer and a folk magic practitioner in the area. Well, you have to understand that the Mormon Church likes to say, these here people are farmers and they're dumb and they live on the land. They don't know how to read or write or nothing. Okay, that's great. That's not the truth, though. So this is a letter that Lucy wrote to one of her friends. And the reason why I stick it in here is because it becomes pretty important when you start drawing tables to what exactly Joseph was up to. So she says, let not my readers suppose that because I shall pursue another topic for a season, that we stopped our labor and went at trying to win the faculty of a brack, drawing magic circles, or soothsaying to the neglect of all kinds of business. So she's basically saying she's not lazy. That wasn't all they were doing. They were known as a treasure digging family. They were known as scryers. They did also do divining rods, water witching, all kinds of folk magic like this. And they want to say it's folk magic, but that's not really what I think it is. When you're talking about the house of a brack, right? I had no idea what that even meant when I saw this. So I started looking it up, and I got to get me a better picture of Abraxas here. But we're talking about the chicken snake god, right? And these different magical systems. There's Abraxas.
Depicted like the ancient Greek titans.
Yes.
With the serpents for legs.
Yeah, serpents for legs. And there's also, a really funny little conjecture with abracadabra and magic and all these things, right? So I'm kind of laying this out so you can understand how we get where we get. So remember that Abraxas, because he's going to come back into the picture as far as magical things. And so people want to say dumb farmers, folk magic, no big deal. Everybody did it. That's the story of the Mormon Church. Well, I'm going to tell you that it's not. This is the story I was told when I was growing up. When I was a kid, they showed a studious Joseph translating the plates with this breastplate of righteousness and these spectacles, which are not even correctly drawn, because they said the spectacles were so big that both of his eyes fit in one. And so, but regardless, this is what we were told when I was a kid. This is actually how the Book of Mormon was translated. And we haven't even got to how he got those plates yet, but this is going to just get weird. So actually, he was scrying, and he was known to be a virgin scryer for his family. And we all thought this story was BS.
Now, what is a scryer, Heidi, just for those that are not familiar with that term?
And so there is a funny South Park episode on this. And if you guys watch it, you will know a slight history of the church. And it's actually really correct. And back in the day, I saw that and thought, this is bullcrap. This is a lie. They never showed us anything about scrying or a hat or anything. Okay. But all of a sudden, this comes out, and I'll explain about scrying. Scrying is when you're looking, he blocked out all the light in the hat and would put his head in the hat with a seer stone, which we'll get into. And he would call out these characters to this guy. This is Martin Harris, but his wife helped him. Oliver Cowdery helped him. He had a whole bunch of helpers. And so they wrote it in a different language. They called it Reformed Egyptian. But I also don't think that's exactly what that was. So we're laying all the bare bones here, and I know I'm all over the place. I will tie it together with a pretty bow, I promise. So this is the current prophet of the church, Russell M. Nelson. So this last year or two, he pulls the hat out and just was like, yeah, look, photo op. And also, if you notice this quill in the back, right, and this inkwell, and all of these things, if you know anything about magical systems, and especially Solomonic magic, because this is not folk magic, you guys. This is Solomonic magic, and it's not as light and airy and white witchcrafty as folk magic is.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris Vick. I'm the founder of Squatch Survival Gear, and today I'm here to talk to you about some of our most popular packs. In 2017, I founded Squatch Survival Gear because I was tired of seeing low-quality, mass-produced packs flooding the American market. I decided I'd make a pack that was 100% designed and manufactured in the United States, and today I'm here to talk to you about some of our most popular packs. This is the Night Howler. It's designed for EDC and travelers. As you can see, it's small. It's roughly 10 by 12 inches. It's designed for everyday carry. The pass-through pad allows you to put it on your luggage when you travel. This is the Rougarou. It's very civilianized, lots of attachment points. This is a 25-liter pack. We designed it for a little lighter load. If you need more than the Night Howler, you should try this. This is the Mothman, very similar to the Rougarou, roughly the same size, but it's designed for carrying a much heavier load. The removable waist belt will help you carry that extra load. You've also got your retaining strap if you're going to take that on a travel trip. This is the Kakamora. This would be your first 72-hour pack, as we used to say in the Army. It comes with an internal frame, totally adjustable straps, heavily padded. You can carry heavy loads, carry lots of gear. This is the Rock Ape. It's a 45-liter pack. Same internal frame, same great padded straps that you like, with a few extra features. If you're wondering what's with all the crazy names, well, that's because finding 100% American made is as hard as finding Bigfoot in the woods. When you're ready to carry our packs, contact us at squatchsurvivalgear.com or any of our social medias.
Hey, if you're tuning in every single week, then that means you enjoyed the content. But did you know that there's an all-access pass for less than one stop at McDonald's and get you a month's worth of members-only episodes, access to a private community of like-minded brothers and sisters. This also gives you a monthly Q&A with authors and speakers and guests that we've had on the show. And not only is this just all for you, you are also helping to ensure that I keep doing this show each and every single week. I know lots of people that support podcasts that if you stopped subscribing, they'd never even know you were gone because they don't need your money. They don't need your funds. I'm a working class guy, 9 to 5, just like the rest of you. So not only am I working 40 plus hours a week, I'm coming home, reading, studying, doing interviews, cutting these videos, and giving you guys some great infotainment. So if you enjoy the content, hey, help me out with a cheeseburger or a Happy Meal once a month, and you will see every bit of that get reinvested into this show and things that will just filter straight back to you, the listener. I would love to be doing this full time, but if you're enjoying the content at the level that I'm producing now, you can imagine the level and volume of content that I'd produce if this was my full-time ministry. So thank you for the love and support and the views that I get. I'm averaging right now 13 to 15,000 downloads a month. So if any of you guys feel compelled, hey, sign up and join us on the hero's journey and get the all access pass. Because not only do you get 48-hour early access, you get monthly members chats and Q&As, access to the private community, members only exclusive content. You are also helping to ensure that I keep doing what you are enjoying. So head on over to PrometheusLensPodcast.com, follow the members link, and I'll see you guys on the other side.
Well, neither is our prophet. Okay. And I said their prophet. Russell M. Nelson, current prophet, seer, and revelator of the Mormon LDS mainstream church, not the polygamy sect, none of that, is a member of the Skull and Bone Society at the University of Utah. He is also a surgeon. That University of Utah sect was actually set up by Yale people that were in Skull and Bones. It was a sanctioned sect. It's not like specifically on the books as sanctioned, but it was. If you look up the history on it, basically they took some of their brightest to come set this up. And Russell M. Nelson's daughter has also been in a lot of trouble that they kind of brushed under the rug, probably used Solomonic magic and got her out of it. Haha. But for sex abuse for children. And it was not just sexual abuse. It was satanic sexual abuse. Now it's all alleged. But I do have a show on this called the Pace Memos Show. And it's a good thing to kind of look at because I dare say the Mormon Church is a bigger player than people really want to understand. And I'll show that. But anyway, this is the current prophet of the church. He's actually 100 years old as well. So in his hat that I showed, that was the real hat. They pulled it out of the archives. He would put this rock. He had 5 rocks, but this was his favorite rock. And he found it while he was digging a well on his neighbor's property. And then it was on their property. So it was their rock and they wanted it because they also used to do seeing stones and he never gave it back. So Mormonism is literally built upon a stolen rock, which I think is funny. But this is one of his other ones. This is the sandy colored seer stone. And this is all for you guys to go see. You can look these up. This is a rendition. I dare say this is the most important stone, although they try and say it was the chocolate stone, because this stone has never been photographed ever. It's only been an artist rendition. And I find that very strange. So where they're just whipping out the rest of them, like, yeah, come look at it. Seems weird. They do say it's kind of like a quartz mixture on that one. So this is kind of what it looked like for Joseph, because this is a pretty fair rendition of him with his seer stone and his layman pouch. This is going to be important. And his hat. And so this is actually how the Book of Mormon was translated, not the other story we were told with him studiously at a desk. So we get into some weeds. I was like, well, I wonder about this seer stone. And I started looking things up about it. And I run into the Smith family magical relics. The church doesn't deny their existence. They just try to make it seem like, oh, no big deal. Well, we're going to show you. You can decide for yourself. In the pouch that he carried on his neck would be these lamens. And these are faraway pictures. I've got some better ones. And these are grimoires. This is the actual photo of it, and it's not very good, so I have a color-coded, but I wanted to show these first anyway, and I'll show you what the others mean. So all of these parchments likely belong to Joseph Smith Sr. and Joseph Smith Jr. However, Joseph and Hiram died together. Do you know how they died? Should I tell you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure he was getting jiggy with all the guys' wives and pissing a whole lot of people off in the area because he was implementing polygamy. And with the polygamy thing, like I said, he saw the angel Moroni after a fit of darkness. Have you ever heard any other religions that sound like that? because I have. So if you know anything about the Muslim religion, what happened with him? Muhammad would go out. He would have a fit of darkness. When he would wake up, they wouldn't write it down because he had 2 people that just followed him around and memorized everything. But he said Gabriel would tell him all these things, right? And then we could do a fun one. How about Aleister Crowley? He went to Egypt and he saw not an angel, but an alien, right? Awas. And then that told him a bunch of things and he wrote it down and that became a religion. We could do the Babylon workings. We don't want to talk about what they did out in the desert, but they did some things and they saw some things and then it told them a bunch of things. They wrote it down and it became religion. So this goes on and on and on, even including, you know, you could do this for good side, for bad side, but they all have a price to pay. And this goes back to John Dee. So whenever angels are talking to these people, it's never just like, hey, let's better the world and let's fix it up. And you just write this stuff down. No. Starting with John Dee and his talk with angels, we know that he was a pious man. He prayed a lot. He was a Christian person. And then the angel said, you guys got to swap wives. So at this point, I'm pretty sure John Dee knew, like, game over, probably not talking to real angels. Because I don't think they would want you to do that. Just like with Crowley, he was into everything. Just like Mormonism, he was into polygamy. Just like Muhammad, polygamy and child abuse. Mormons have child abuse as well. So all of these things require some sort of, you know, trade. Okay. And sure enough, all of these trades led, like I said, to polygamy. He was taking many wives and spiritual wives, and it sure did tick a lot of people off. He also stole some things from Masonry, which we'll get into, and also ticked a lot of people off. So they ended up going and burning some printing press down because they made fun of him. And also we're going to expose the polygamy aspect. And so they set it on fire. They put him in jail, and then they had a shootout, and he either died from the bullet, or there's like a little back and forth on this, or he jumped out the window and died. But one or the other, they both died together. And so these parchments and everything left on their bodies were the families to decide what to do with. So it says Hiram, which is his brother, which is hysterical, like Hiram Abiff. Yeah, like that. So they're definitely a Masonic family. It's actually known that Joseph Smith was a master Mason. His brother was a Mason. His brother was very studious. He actually went to Dartmouth College, and they call it the Dartmouth Indian College, but nevertheless, it's a faction right there with it. And so he's off studying. He's doing things out there. He does support Joseph. But he's not into treasure digging. He's not into scrying. He's not into these things that his dad and his brother were into. That's why I feel it's pretty plausible that these belong to Joseph Smith Sr. and Joseph Smith Jr. And so I just lay that out to kind of say it's crap that they kind of blame it on Hiram. Remember the unlearned farm boy that could barely read or write. This is one of his entries from his journal. I just like people to see that this was no dummy. Okay. All that time he spent sick on a couch or wherever he laid, he was reading books. And his brother's off in college. What are you going to bring a kid that can't do anything, that doesn't have anything in the house? How about some books?
Yeah. Didn't have Netflix back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he's hanging out with who? His mom. That's, you know, the healer, folk magic, whatever. Lucy Mack Smith, you know, yeah, Scottish ties there. But, and so this all was on them. Like I said, I'm certain it was Joseph's, and I'll prove why. Now this has to be dissected for us to understand exactly what he was into. So this is the Holiness to the Lord parchment. I hate when it does that. I can usually get it to blow up. And these different things are Solomonic seals, sigils, calling out for angels. This is something that you would do when you have a fair amount of knowledge about this. You don't just willy-nilly go into doing Solomonic magic, okay? You're calling down and actually evoking.
I see Yod Hey Vav Hey, the circumpunct and the circle cross. That's the only ones that I'm familiar with.
So some of these others, and we'll go through them step by step, but they all come from the Magus by Francis Barrett, The Discovery of Witchcraft, Occult Sciences, all these type of occult books. Okay. They're not goody two shoe little Christian things. And we'll go through them because there's close up pictures here. And it's just laying a foundation of exactly what Joseph Smith is into. Like I said, Solomonic magic is hard. And even if you're a practitioner of it today, you don't just start messing with that. You have to know some things. On top of having these parchments on him at the time he died, he also had a Jupiter talisman on him at the time he died. Again, we're talking about Solomonic magic stuff. And so Joseph Smith owned this talisman. It was one of his most intimate possessions, according to his wife, and she wanted it back. And so it has definitely been identified as his, which is a problem for the church because they can shove off on the other brother for the other things, but not this because she wanted it back. And it does have a lot of different powerful sigils carved in this, and we'll go through some of this. This is the third pentacle. That's what was on one side of that Jupiter talisman. And it says, "This defendeth and protecteth those who invoke and cause the spirits to come. And when they appear, show unto them this pentacle, and they immediately will obey." So he is messing with some things that are not great. Just because you see the word of God in here a whole bunch of different ways doesn't mean this is like white magic stuff. It does. I'm not going to say if you're a Solomonic practitioner, you know what you're dealing with, but this doesn't automatically make it holy just because they use the Lord's name. So just want to put that out there. These two sigils were also on that first paper I showed you. And these are actually from a witchcraft book. And again, it says, whoso beareth this, you have to obey. This is all about him invoking and evoking these spirits and working specifically with them. He also had the Smith's ceremonial magic dagger. Now, if you guys know anything about magic, and even if you don't, you can look it up. These are critical things that you have to do this magical work. And so this was actually engraved with the seal on the intelligence of Mars. Okay, so when you're talking about the intelligence of anything, that means a demon. So people like to just say, oh, it was just the intelligence of Mars. They have no idea what that means. You guys can look up a lot of this stuff. When you're talking about the greater and lesser keys of Solomon, you're talking about a whole mess of things. But specifically, anything with intelligence of is a lower level. So these were also
and referring to that, Heidi, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
oh, you're good. Interrupt away.
I'd say there's quite a bit of people that's totally ignorant to
right.
a lot of the stuff that you're talking about. So, like, just not to derail you.
Yeah, no, you won't.
But like the Solomonic, rites and stuff, that's referring to these power rings and sigils, and like supposedly he would summon these demons to help build the temple. Is what the
So the story of Solomon, they believe that he had a ring. It's kind of like, it's actually a pretty fun, and it sounds just like that movie, Lord of the Rings, but one ring to rule them all, it's, he had this demon, and he got the one demon to tell him the names of all the other demons, and he was able to bind them all but one. And that one was too powerful and got away. But the rest of these, he was able to control, and they were forced to actually help him build a temple. And so when you're talking about angels or demons, and I've talked to Dr. Justin Sledge from Esoterica channel, he's really knowledgeable on this stuff. He's actually a doctorate of esoterics. He explained to me as well that when you see these callings and different things for angels, he said, all of us that are in the Jewish community would rather work with demons all day long than angels because they're terrifying. He said, you have to know what you're doing because they're crazy wild. Like they are really military type situation. Like if anything's out of line, how they say God, everything has a purpose with God and everything's just and fair, but everything's like by a law. They go to the letter of the law, really. And so he's like, we never would mess with angels before even a demon. We would deal with the demons first. So that kind of gives you an idea how serious this stuff was and is. There are magical practitioners today that still deal with this. And so this is just a little, you guys can read these, but what these different things are and what the callings are for these. And these are just different demons and ceremonial. So this one's the third good angel of ceremonial magic. And then over to the side, it explains what it's for. But he's using these and he's not putting them in the circle that we're used to seeing. See how this has like a circle around this seal? Well, that isn't so for a lot of things that he's doing. Like this is another angel right here, Jumanlades, which is funny enough. That goes into Freemasonry. But anyways, it was the whole reason why I was able to find a lot of this, because I reverse looked up this specific image and it came back to only one other person ever, which was John Dee. And I was like, well, who's that? Remember, I'm like a normie at this point. I have no knowledge of any occult things, magic things. I didn't even want to study this. It scared me, to be honest. It was scary to me. And I just felt really moved that I should do it. And so as I learned, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like occult sciences. And you know what? If you guys want to practice occult sciences all day long, you guys just go ahead. But that is your free will. When you're talking about Mormons, they get tricked into this. We get told that it's all Christian. It's all about God. None of this stuff. They don't show us any of this. I never saw any of this till I got out. And so this is why I'm a little ticked off and talk about it. And so, like I said, these parchments, you guys can see that there's a lot going on here, and he is calling things down. But when he doesn't encircle them, that means he has a working relationship with this. He's not controlling it. When you bind them and you put them in the circle, they have to do what you say. But when it's open like this, they don't have to. That means he's trading favors, basically. So again, this is just his ceremonial knife, but it does show a better up close picture of the Adonai, Scorpio, and intelligence of Mars signs here. And a lot of this is magical language. And that's why people are probably completely like, what is this? Again, you just look back into Solomonic magic. They have tables, everything. It gets really complicated, but the lesser and greater keys of Solomon, there is a free PDF download of this, funny enough, from BYU University. Which is the Mormon college. So that made me laugh. But yeah, so all of this stuff is really important, like these tables, everything in ceremonial magic. And in ceremonial magic, a lot of times you have to have a sacrifice, blood magic, blood rituals. This stuff isn't for the weak. Okay. So a lot of times they'll have these ceremonial daggers, to have the prayer already on it if they do need an animal sacrifice. He was quoted as having an animal sacrifice, and we will get to that as well. These are the other things that he called down, and I put them on here so people can study them, because that one was so far away. I wanted to make sure people could see. And so these are different angels, different demons, all the things he was messing with. So he really had a thing for Jupiter, and I'm sure it was his birth chart. He figured it out, like the day, the hour, the minutes, all of it. It's all on there. And so all of these are things that he was specifically calling down and or working with specifically. So again, Raphael doesn't have the circle around it. So he is in legion with these things. The one interesting thing you have to remember, if you don't know the story about John Dee, is John Dee spoke to a lot of different things that also said they were angels, and they weren't. At the end of his writings, he spent like 8 years working with one guy and I think 7 with the other. He spent almost his whole life, was penniless, lost his family, almost died, was arrested. He almost gave everything he had, okay, to this work. And at the end, he was like, they lie all the time. Most people, even that do Solomonic magic today, say they lie all the time. So you got to be aware of that if you guys get into some of these traps. Like, everything comes with a price. There's nothing that's free, not even in the other world. So Again, this just explains about different calling out that he had on those parchments, because I like to leave them in there so people can look it up. Not because I didn't give like a brief overlook of it, but just because I know people will say I'm full of crap. So here is the copy of my digitized version from BYU. Funny enough. I just threw that in there because I thought it was funny. I got to change this seal, but this is one of the pentacles found in the Solomon manuscripts. This one is similar to it, but this was actually supposed to be a picture of the seal of Mammon, Mammon, and I need to add that one in here. And they are almost identical to this. And this is the priesthood seal for the men, the priesthood and seal of Melchizedek. They don't even try to hide what they're doing here. They literally call it the seal of Melchizedek. When you're talking about Solomonic magic, they're the ones that use wordage like that. Again, if you notice, it's got no circle around it. So it is not bound, which is concerning. And also, Mammon is the god of money. I wonder why they're one of the richest churches in the world. So we also get into necromancy, Mormon magic and necromancy with Joseph Smith. This is inside a real LDS temple. I have been there. I can tell you I've done this. There is something that we do when we hit about the age of 12 to about 16. You could do it if you were older and wanted to, but nobody does because we leave it for the kids. And what you're going to do is you're going to get in a baptismal suit, all white and everything. Get in here, get in this oxen bathtub, and you're going to get baptized again for a bunch of dead people. So you can do this and you literally act in proxy. So you say that you are that name that day. Like if it's for Jill Smith, they raise up your hand and you're baptized for Jill Smith. They believe, well, the lay people believe that they are doing this to save their dead relatives, to give them options, that they're basically like in a waiting room, waiting for these things to be done. Like if they never got baptized, oh, you're going to save them. I don't know about that. We'll talk about why. They also, wow, that went crazy. They also wanted to make sure that they did everybody. So this is the actual paperwork for Adolf Hitler. They did Adolf Hitler. I thought that was lovely.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this gets back to some really weird things that I found later. But they also did Anne Frank. They also did a lot of the Jewish people that died for what they believed in, until the Jewish like bosses of their church went, hey, cut it out. And then they said, okay, we will. We're sorry. And then they did it again. So, yeah. And here's the dates when he was baptized, endowed, and sealed. When you are baptized, that's what I just described for the kids. But these other two things, the endowment and the sealing, these are done by adults. And I'll show you guys kind of what that looks like. So this also comes as one of the relics of Joseph Smith's. He had a serpent cane. He has a crown here and on a shield. But do you notice this? Upside down cross. These are his initials, JS, Joseph Smith. I found that interesting. The fact that it's a serpent cane, you have to remember magic practitioners don't always have wands. Like, I mean, sometimes they're Harry Pottery, but sometimes they're like Moses's staff. And this is very much the latter, or Gandalf, if you guys want a real world, funny.
Same staff that turned into a serpent in front of Pharaoh's magicians.
Yep. And so these things, are magical items. Like, I just don't think the church can get away from it. These are even worse. These are coffin canes, and these were made by digging up the brothers that were buried, Joseph and his brother, after they died in their rotting coffins. They cut them all to pieces and made canes out of them, coffin canes, literally with their gross juices and whatever all over them. They said they had to move the bodies because, we have to move them because they're going to come desecrate him. No. If you know anything about necromancy and some of the stuff that's going on with this, there was reasons. So, yeah, there also is in the knob there is embedded hair from their head from both Joseph and Hyrum Smith. Sounds totally Christian, right?
Yeah. I mean, that stuff goes all the way back to Göbekli Tepe. They were, venerating their dead ancestors by taking their skulls and body parts. And
it's so weird, huh? It's like a whole, it's a whole weird rabbit hole. That is for sure. And I'm going to show these after I do this movie. But this also was, before I do the movie, they must have got out of order. This is an actual rendition of something that happened with Joseph Smith and his neighbors. The neighbor, Willard Chase, had actually asked them to go treasure digging, and this is his rendition of what had happened. The nice thing about Joseph Smith is he got in a fair amount of trouble for his treasure digging, and he had to go to court. And so these are actually affidavits and from this case, and this is the ticket from his case. That he basically was swindling people. They called him the glass looker. And I will tell you guys, the neighbor said he didn't obtain those plates like he told you guys. Like, he didn't get them just by going over there and talking nice to an angel. He went on the autumn equinox, dressed in all black. He had to come over and borrow a black horse. That's why we know this. He borrowed our black horse, and he went in a cart, and he went there in the middle of the night, and he tried to get the plates, and this frog-like creature came out and said, no, you can't have them, and punched him in the face. And so people joke about this because they think this is fake. They think this is the Hoffman rendition of the salamander, but it isn't. It actually was noted in his court case that this actually happened. And when you start listening to things where you understand about familiars and different witches things, like it makes a lot more sense. But long story short, he didn't get the plates that year. And the toad creature man said, you got to go back and get your brother. Well, he couldn't go get his brother because his brother died. And so he had a problem. And everybody likes to joke that his brother, Alvin, gave a hand to help start Mormonism, because this is a real article that was in the newspaper that was ran 4 times by Joseph Smith Sr., basically saying, I'm just going to summarize it. If you see our son's grave got dug up, that's because we dug it up to make sure nobody dug it up. And to show you guys that we didn't dig it up. Okay, we got some problems, right? And he's saying, oh, this is so sad for us, but we have to do it because you guys are saying it's gossip and you guys are saying we did something bad. Well, or you could just look at the dirt and check and see that it wasn't disturbed. I don't know what you're doing there. Sounds like pre-gaming,
So they dig him up and bring him to the ritual to get the plates, or
I truly believe he had a hand in getting the plates, probably. Because remember, the skull
cut his hand off and took a piece of him.
I think possibly. You know how bones play a part in all this. I mean, if you've got people doing things for the dead, I don't doubt that they wouldn't do some weird stuff here. So, yeah, this is all pretty heavy and weird. And like I said, all of this goes into, different weird necromancy things. Like, we're going to get really weird with this necromancy here now, because I'm going to show you guys this little movie, and I got to turn it down because it'll blow your ears out. I don't know why it's so loud. So we're going to enter into the ceremony of making men gods. Okay. This really is a rendition, you guys, but I've been to the temple. The temple ceremony is 2 hours long or more. And that's just for the endowment session. So I couldn't show you the whole thing, but they've reenacted it pretty well for like a quick scene.
What you are seeing is an authentic first-time ever on film reenactment of secret Mormon temple ceremonies that even most Mormons have never seen. And those who have sworn never to reveal these secrets under penalty of death.
The execution of the penalty is represented by placing the right thumb under the left ear, drawing the thumb quickly across the throat to the right ear, and dropping the hand to the side.
All of us who've been through the temple have sworn solemn oaths consenting to having our throat slit and our heart and our vitals torn out.
The execution of the penalty is represented by drawing the thumb quickly across the body and dropping the hands to the side.
In the Mormon temple marriage, the partners are sealed to each other for time and all eternity in Mason-like rituals. And without this ceremony, no one can enter the presence of Joseph Smith and become a god.
Pay, lay, ale. Brother Pratt, having authority, I wash you preparatory to receiving your anointings for and in behalf of John Kimball, who is dead, that you may become clean from the blood and sins of this generation.
Sister Bradford, I wash you preparatory to you receiving your anointings for and behalf of
Eliza Barrett.
Eliza Barrett, who is dead, that you may become clean from the blood and sins of this generation.
I wash your head, that your brain and intellect may become clear and active.
Your eyes, that you may see clearly and discern between truth and error.
Thousands of occultic ceremonies each day are performed for the dead, so that they too can receive the benefits of Mormonism. Mormons are encouraged to have encounters with the dead, and it's not uncommon for demons impersonating the dead to appear to Mormons stating that they've been converted to the Mormon Church in the spirit world and now want their family history traced.
Your loins, that you may be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, that you may have joy in your posterity.
Your vitals and bowels, that they may be strong and healthy and perform their proper function.
Your breast, that it may be the receptacle of pure and virtuous principles.
Okay. So that is a real rendition of some things that happen in the Mormon Church, in the Mormon temple, not church. So this is a bad photo because it's dark, but also probably it was no new name Noah that snuck in and took these with like Google glasses. And so, yeah, it was a whole situation. And so he did the best he could, guys. But these are green. These aprons are green. They're not black. This robe is a one-breasted robe, which all of this stuff is very Freemasonic. I will say there's been a couple of changes since the temple ceremony, since that movie. Number one, the lady doesn't grab her boob. She just like puts it above, okay? Because they made it look kind of nefarious. They don't touch you in a sexual way. But I will tell you, they've had to change this part, but not for me, because I went in the 90s. They give you this poncho and then you're just naked underneath and it's wide open on the sides. And that's all you're wearing while they're doing that. And so do you feel comfortable? No. Do you feel sexually violated? No. But is it weird? Yep. So I did this. Like this was part of my life for a long time. And that's called your preparatory, your washing and anointings. When my great grandma went through, because I complained, I said, this really sucked. I didn't like that. You know, I didn't like being half naked. And she said, well, we were all the way naked and we were in a tub. So feel blessed. And I was like, oh my gosh. So there, yeah, at least some changes have been made. Anyways, all of this, they're doing the handshakes and raising their hand to the square, just like this. This is in a prayer circle. Now, I want people to be aware of this just for their information for the future. If you have anybody that's in the Mormon Church that says they'll put your name on a temple list. If you have a problem in the church, a lot of times people will say, we'll put your name on the temple list for you. This is what they're going to do for you. They're going to do this weird circle chanting. So be aware of that. If somebody offers that to you, just know what you're getting in for. Their hands are very purposeful, the way they're holding them. This is one of the signs. If you notice, it looks real familiar. This is an occultic typhon sign from the OTO. The OTO is too new. So this is occultic from before, obviously, but yeah, makes you wonder what they were up to. And then they used to say Pele-El. The Mormons call God Elohim, which is not God's name. that's a council. The Elohim are like the B'nai Ha Elohim, right? But Mormons are like, no, we're not polytheists. What are you talking about? We're just regular Christian people. And I'm like, I mean, whatever. Yeah, if you think that. But, clearly not. So they had to change it because a lot of people also complained. And so they say, oh God, hear the words of my mouth now. They also don't do the throat slitting anymore because a lot of people were upset about that. Even though this whole ceremony was given to them by divine revelation, they're changing it. Why? I'm not really sure. But
and also too, I mean, just more people are wise to the Freemasonic rituals and hand signals and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing, the Masons and the Mormons. So when I went through, if somebody came up to me and said, because the internet I'm old. Okay. Like I'm 48. So the internet was just kind of newish. And what they would do to control us when I was young, they would say, that's anti-Mormon propaganda. You don't read that. You don't study that. You don't get those books. You don't do. So they had a real good grip on us, but then it started to dissipate, right? Because the internet came along and basically ruined their lives. And so, all this stuff got out. And like you said, people started being wise to this. So these are some of the signs and penalties and all these different things. So these are also the magical Mormon underpants. These are the real things. I will tell you guys for the first time. We touched
on this on the episode that I went on with you.
Yes. Yep. And these are real and they're just very uncomfortable. I will say, and there's a square and compass on each nipple. There's a sideways ruler on the umbilicus, and there's also a mark on the knee. And I actually just found some really interesting information about that. They say it's because they say every knee will bow for God, but actually it's kind of a sign that you're there to serve, like not just God. So there's a whole magical implication with that. We'll leave it alone for now, or we'll get lost in the weeds. But you have to wear these underneath, like everything. They have to be touching your skin. I will say, for the first time ever since probably the 1900s, when they changed them, because they used to look like this, 1800s, they just barely, in the last 2 weeks came out, and they have made a slightly sleeveless, not like a tank. It's more like a arm cut off, right? Like a muscle shirt for guys. They updated it to that, and slips for women, because the women were complaining about, like, you can never take these off. Like, you have to wear these unless you're showering, unless you're swimming, unless you're going to the gym or making more Mormons. You got to put them right back on, So people were complaining, and I'm shocked that they actually changed it. So I have to add another slide, but nevertheless, still you're wearing symbols. It makes you wonder. So when you're in the temple and you're using these necromancy names, and you've got these slits over openings in your body, it always made me wonder, like, are we invoking things that we don't realize? Yeah, it's a valid question. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're just blowing my mind. I've never really took.
You're good. I can't see you because when I do a presentation, you can't see. So I just check every once in a while, and then my sound.
I've kind of looked into Freemasonry and stuff, and I knew that Mormonism. Joseph Smith stole a lot of ideas from Freemasonry, but he did
steal their temple ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, took a deep dive like this and seen all the occult ritual and the symbolism and all this stuff. So I'm trying to be a sponge right now and soak all this in.
All right. So this also, the apron in the temple ceremony. So the temple ceremony is a mystery play, just so people know. And I go deep. I was telling Justin right before I got on, I've gone into a whole presentation on the magic. I did it as a joke. Okay. Like I was like, let's do a Harry Potter version. Cause come on, magic wands with hair in them. Like, House of Gryffindor. I don't know. So I was like, oh, that'll be fun for Halloween. And then we missed Halloween, but I was like going down this rabbit hole, and it got super dark and weird. And so, like I've said before, people, if you want to practice magic, if you want to go do Aleister Crowley stuff, if you want to go to Anton LaVey's church, look, it's your life. You know, I can't tell you what to do, but for these people, when I'm talking about these Mormon people in the middle, because these people don't know, I didn't know. I did all this stuff and had no idea. My grandma didn't know. Nobody knows anything except the top elite, right? Like it's the same as government. Like absolute power will corrupt absolutely. And money is definitely at play with this. And so when you're talking about some of these things, I just feel bad that even as a Mormon myself, and yes, I should have known better. Yes, I should have studied. But when you are there with your whole family, like I lost my whole family when I left, but my mom, all of them. My grandma sued me. She tried to take my kids. Like this is no joke for them. And I'm not saying all Mormons would do that, but that's what happened to me, you know? So you have a lot to lose. You're not just going to get up and walk out. Like you're not. And so that's why I feel like people, at least if I tell them the truth, at least they have a dog in the fight. Like at least they know what they're doing. It's at least better to know the oaths you make, but God says make no oaths, and he says it for a reason. So, yeah. But in this mystery play, the green apron worn by the temple patrons is the fig leaves. Yes. And it's known for the countless multitudes of seeds. The green apron is full of fruitful seeds and is worn after Adam and Eve are cast out strategically over the loins, right? We talked about this. So that's a crazy, you know, I agree with you. I think the sin was something else. Satan's apron used to look like a Freemasonic apron, but now, because they have a Satan in the play. Now they do a slideshow because Satan left the church, and it looks so bad because they were like playing the movie and everybody knew he was like an Exmo like me now. And so they quit having actors and they're just like, here's your slideshow with like not actors anymore. So not nearly as fun as a mystery play. They used to do it live at a couple of the temples, like at Salt Lake Temple. You could go and watch the play, but it was like a 4-hour deal. And so long story short, Satan would come out. Satan was kind of hot too. It made you feel weird. That's not right. So
like the show Lucifer,
right? Yeah.
Had a British accent and a suit and tie.
Yeah, exactly. He comes out. He had a cape, actually. He had a cape. And so in the Mormon theology, Lucifer is Jesus's brother. So I don't know if you knew that, but he did. He is, whatever. And these are now I didn't put the Mormon ones on there because don't come at me. These are the Masonic handshakes. Yes. Are they almost exactly the same? Mm-hmm. But we only have like 3 of these, but to show an example of what Joseph Smith did, this is called the real grip of the Master Mason, or the lion's paw. Well, for Joseph Smith, he moved it over to right on the wrist and called it the true sign of the nail and made it about Jesus. So that's what he did. And you cannot tell me that that's a dumb farm boy. That's pretty damn brilliant. Just saying, let's give him a little credit here. So you're never supposed to do these signs. We're not like Masons. Yes, Mormons can be Masons. And yes, Masons are like Mormons. But Masons can do their little secret handshakes out in the open. Mormons can't. We're never supposed to do them except in the temple. Ever. Not even if there's a fire. You don't do it. And so what's happening here? This is the old prophet of the church and Baby Bush doing the secret handshake right out in the open like you're not supposed to do. So I guess it's different if you meet the president.
That was a control thing too, probably.
They
didn't want people doing that stuff out in the open, and they would know all the stuff they stole from Freemasonry.
Exactly. And then they would also tell us crazy things like, okay, if you have a question about the temple ceremony, you can ask the question in the temple, only in the temple with other temple people. So like, who are you going to ask? Your grandma and upset her? No, It's never going to happen. You just don't do it. You know, this is a really important photo. This picture, I believe, is, I have a few more things to show you, but this solidifies to me, at least to me, knowing what I know about the CIA and the Mormons and the mob and the Rome and all the things and DNA, which I'm going to show you too. This signifies to me with the current president of the church, with his hand on the key of the kingdoms on Peter's hand, right after they built their first ever temple right next door to the Vatican. Did the Vatican say you can be my next door neighbor? No, they said you could live down the block, but this has never happened before. And you know, there's a lot of speculation about the current Pope and about him not being exactly on the up and up. Same with this guy, right? I do truly believe that the Mormon Church is being highly underrated on one world order business, because Joseph Smith tried to start like a one world order business back when he was alive, called the Order of Enoch. He wasn't supposed to know about Enoch. You're not supposed to read that. And he's supposed to be a dumb farm boy. Yeah. He also worked with a Jewish guy that taught him a whole bunch of stuff too. And we didn't even get into his, like, there's so much stuff. But I'm just saying.
It was the chicken snake that told him when he had his face in the hat.
Exactly. Right. And here's the thing. Well, maybe they all serve the same master. And maybe this is just my conjecture. I'll tell you guys if it's conjecture or not. My conjecture is, with the wealth that the Mormon Church has, that Rome finally had to somewhat allow, because I want to tell you something that might blow your mind. Do you know who the number one holder of the most farmland in America is right now?
China.
No. Bill Gates. No? Do you know who number 2 is? You're staring at him. The Mormon Church. They own the most farmland in America. Bill Gates first, LDS Church second. Want to know what the LDS Church's number 1 shareholding is? Microsoft. What's that? Microsoft. These people are all working together. Their top 10 holdings are bananas. I do a whole CIA breakdown of this that's real, and it's intense. And I'm telling you guys, like, when I started going down that rabbit hole, and I didn't even mean to, like, that's a lot of times with me, that's why I'm unfiltered. Cause I'm like, well, holy shit, what is this? You know? And that's how most of my shows happen. And that's exactly what happened for the whole CIA Connect and the whole top, like all their shareholdings and money, and it goes into the Rotary Club. It's a huge spider web, actually. And their top 10 holdings are like Elon Musk with Tesla. Microsoft is number 1, Alphabet, Amazon. You tell me what's going on. It's weird. It's weird. And it's
Book of Revelation tells you.
Well, I do believe the one world religion will possibly be Masonry, because then they only have to believe in a higher power, right? So getting to the controversial, weird conspiracy side, I did want to share this last little bit. On the day that Diddy got arrested, the very day, this press release happened, and it came across my phone, and I was like, holy cow, I got to take a picture of this. Every single one of the board members on 23andMe quit as soon as Diddy was arrested. And I was like, well, that's weird. I'm always one for a good conspiracy. So I followed a little yellow brick road, and I was like, I wonder why that is. And then I was looking, and I was thinking, okay, well, what does this lady have to do with anything? Well, the lady, I thought I put that picture in here. The lady that owns this, Ann Warchicki, well, she's the board. She's the top CEO. Her sister actually was over YouTube, and she suddenly died in her very young 50s of cancer, just barely in August. And her son suddenly died of an overdose right before that in April. I'm not saying anything nefarious happened, but so what does it have to do with the Mormons, right? Like, who gives a crap about 23andMe? Well, this is why I give a crap. You have to know something about the Mormons. The Mormons are obsessed with genealogy. The Mormons are so obsessed with genealogy that there would be no 23andMe. There would be no Ancestry.com if there was not something else first. It's called FamilySearch.org. And that was started by the Mormons. The Mormons, to do their temple work that I showed you, to put in the death dates and the birth dates and the marriage dates and all this stuff, they made this huge program. And my grandma was one of their first missionaries. They actually call missionaries that are older people that are somewhat good on the computer. And they are like data entry people. And they do this all day, every day for like 6 hours a day for free. And they pay to like be on these missions unless they live close by, which my grandma did. And so she was plugging all this information in. So I, as an insider, kind of knew all about this program before it really launched forward. And then when all these DNA sites started coming out, what FamilySearch.org did is they poured everything they had into these other companies. Do they own it? No. Do they own all the information? Yeah. And so to hold this information, and I also find it fascinating that not only does this exist in Utah, but within 40 miles of me, there is an FBI building, a CIA building, an Air Force Base, an IRS, and an NSA, just so you know. The Mormons are involved in a lot more than they look like. But they own this Batman cave, this Batman vault, and I'm not kidding. This is the side of a mountain. This is called the Granite Genealogical Vaults. And you guys can fact check me all day long. This is a Batman cave. They blew the side of a mountain out and they have all these. This is one tiny row, one tiny hallway, little tiny row. You can't get in here. These are just pictures they released to like Deseret News. This is all full of genealogy. There are 3.1 billion genealogy sample, like names and stuff in here. Every Mormon has to go and do their family tree as far back as they can do it. Every single one of us, or we're bad people. Let me tell you something about guilt. It can make you be so successful at things. And when they say every single Mormon family better do it, we all want to be one-upping everybody else. When I was a Mormon, I did the same thing. We all jumped on Johnny on the spot because we want to look good at church on Sunday. Yeah. They have everyone's information. People be worried about China. I'm worried about the Mormons. Telling you what.
And this makes me think of Gary Wayne talking about the Rex Dios,
yes,
and the dragon bloodlines, the ones that drunk the quote unquote the starfire, aka the blood. It's like, why are they wanting to know who's in your family and how far back it goes? It's like it's pointing back to Genesis 3:15 and the seed war.
Yes, I 100% agree. And I also think some things possibly were imparted on the people that were involved in these talking to angels. Okay. The Mormons push that Mormons have kids, right? They tell all of you guys, don't have kids, it's too many kids in the world. Elon Musk has like a bazillion kids that he's making like IVF babies all over the place. So do superstars. So do Mormons. They were very racist. They did not let any African-American people, they had a 1-drop rule until 1978. I was alive then. They did not allow these people to get the priesthood. If you don't have the priesthood, you can't go to heaven. You get to be a servant. If you're a woman and you don't get married, same diff. You get the priesthood through your husband. So this goes clear into the Thule. I can't even open it up, but it goes into the Thule Society. We just did a whole thing about it, how it ties in, and the Mormons are always there. I'm like, how is it possible that this is always popping up? Do you know one of the few people after World War II that went to the aid of Nazi Germany were the Mormons? I mean,
well, yeah, because it goes with the whole eugenics thing, the purity
yes.
of the bloodlines.
Do you know how white the Mormons are? Do you see me? Like, we have a joke, and it's not really a joke because this is something that they actually said. This is a quote that if They went to their native brothers and sisters and bought all their children. Yes, he said bought. And that we bred with them, then we could make them more white and delightsome so that they could be back into the fold of God. Yeah, it's messed up. I can't believe there's any black people that would ever be a Mormon. It's so sad. It's yucky.
Well, it's like that with Freemasonry too, because they weren't allowed in the Brotherhood until late in the game. And even when they was allowed, it was segregated. They had their own chapters. Yep. And a lot of people get so bent out of shape when you bring up the serpent seed doctrine. And the thing with that is too, is if you search the history of that, it's because people did some nefarious things in its application. It doesn't make the idea evil. It's people taking that idea and twisting it to their nefarious ends. And they used it as a racist ploy. So, the Ku Klux Klan, the Nazi Germany, all these, racist organizations adopted this serpent seed theology to propagate their racism and make
they were hiding
half the human population not human. They were damned from the beginning.
They're Nephilim.
And so they're aliens. They're not human. Kill them all.
Well, and actually, I think that they, I'm going to shut this. I think that's good. But this is just the last piece, is they truly believe that they can become God. As humanity now is, God once was. As God now is, humanity may become. And this is actual quotes from the prophets of the church, and Joseph Smith said it as well. And so, these are things that are, I'm going to tell you guys the story about the premortal existence in, let's see, stop sharing, in the church. So the reason why the church says it's okay to be racist toward Black people. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with brown people. If you're a Pacific Islander or you're Native American, it's a different rule. That's the mark of Cain. But for Black people, they say that there was a war in heaven and that the Black people didn't know what to do. They didn't know which side to go on. And I believe in the war of heaven, but I just don't believe this part. And they said, oh, well, they're the fence sitters. And I remember my grandpa saying this when I was young and thinking, why is he calling Black people bad words? Why is he calling them a fence sitter? I don't understand this. And so he called them that. And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, because they didn't choose a side. They got that mark. And so they asked Brigham Young, the second prophet of the church. Now, remember when I tell you that they're the prophet of the church, they're the prophet, seer, and revelator. They believe that there is still direct revelation coming directly to these men. And how do you think that they get that power? Why the hell would we be doing necromancy? It doesn't make any sense, right? Unless you're the goyim that run the machine. And then you get the secrets, right? Because you're the one, they're powering the machine. And so they don't understand this. It's a huge loosh grab. And so actually they asked that second prophet of the church, they said, when will you take that mark off and let them have the priesthood? And he said, I can't take it off. And they go, well, what do they have to do to get it off? He said, well, the person that put it on them has to take it off. That means God. That means God. My niece is Black. This sat very unwell with me. My nephews are mixed. All my family, are all a rainbow of people. We've got Latin America, we've got Native American, we've got Pacific Islanders. And it's sad to me that they think that that's okay. Right. Back then, even Brigham Young was quoted that if he saw his wife, one of his 55 wives, in bed with a Black man, it would be better to run them both through with a sword than to let them live. It's crazy. And then they act like they're this patriarchal order, but at the very top, when you get to the very top of the whole church, this is why they get away with such evil. This is why they can do the things they've done. Because on the CIA one, we could do that one or whatever, but I could show you guys, the Mormons built Las Vegas. The Mormons are fully engulfed in the 3-letter agencies. Just pick whatever. They recruit here specifically. They say it's because all the missionaries are clean cut and they know another language and blah, blah, blah. That's not why. The indoctrination is done. It's done to us at birth. We get up and we say, I'd like to bear my testimony, and I know this church is true at 4 years old. And I didn't know what that even meant. You know what I mean? But you get up there and you recite it and you do it anyway. So you are so indoctrinated by the time you become a teenager or get to the weirdest part, right? Like I showed you 2 hours of weirdness. And you're just like, you don't care anymore because you think everything is normal. You think that is normal. But I'm telling you guys, like at the top of all of this, there are people protected because at the very top, they have something called the second anointing. And if you have the second anointing, you get chosen by one of the 12, the quorum of the 12, the apostles. And then there's the Godhead, which is the 3, of course. And then the quorum of the 70. This should all sound very familiar if you guys are Bible, So anyway, you get put up for that. And what happens is you get one of these quorum of the 12. They wash your feet. They do this special anointing. They make your place sure. This means your place in heaven is done. Your place has been made sure. So nothing short of murder can take away your blessing. Nothing. And so what does that do to people that have been exalted, where they say, oh, I've got the priesthood keys, and we'll get into keys another day. I've got all these special blessings. I'm this special person. I'm better than everyone else. Underpants. Yeah, I got my special underpants. I'm special in every way. And now I'm extra special because I already know I'm going to heaven. No wonder they molest kids. No wonder they do bad things. No wonder they're crooked in their dealings with their fellow men. No freaking wonder. Am I talking about all of you Mormons? No. My in-laws are good people. My in-laws would never do something like that, but there are a lot of people out there that would. And for the right dollar sign, it doesn't matter. And I'm telling you guys, when they leave the temple that day and they go home to their marital bedroom, this plays in. Think of sex magic. Aleister Crowley said he really looked up to Joseph Smith. He called him a moon child. And I'll tell you guys, that's weird. But anyways, the woman is the one that lays her hands on the man in their marital bedroom and says the last blessing, the highest blessing of the church, the tippity top. And who gives that blessing? The woman that's been told her whole life that she can't do it. The woman that's been told her whole life she's not anything but a baby breeder, right? And why do you think they do that? My guess is, their God is not the God of our Bible. That it isn't. It's not the same God that you worship, not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Joseph. It's not that God. And B, a lot of people don't know. But C, the Mormons believe in a mother of heaven, and they talk about it. I'm going to be doing a show with Ed Mabry on this. It's this week. And the mother of heaven, if you look into the queen of heaven, mother of heaven, it's Asherah. And that, my friends, including the Elohim, they call God Elohim. That isn't one person. That's a council. And I'm not saying I believe in that, but I'm not trying to lie to people and tell them that just means one person. Right. It's all Babylon money magic. I mean, honestly, it's Solomonic magic. These are dark occult arts. And if you want to do that, that's fine. But at least we should be able to know, because there's a lot of innocent
knowingly,
people.
have the information and make your own informed decision.
Yes, because it's wrong. They tell us if we don't go to the temple and learn all that stuff I showed you that's Freemasonic, at least with the Freemasons, you're going to be a Freemason when you go there. Yes, they lie to you, but you kind of know that, right? You know going in that they're going to be like, you're going to be hoodwinked. Like there's jokes about this. Come on. But like Mormons, we don't. We believe what they tell us, that this is about going to heaven. And that if you don't know these passwords, you will not get by the angels and sentinels in heaven, and you will not go to heaven. And so, you know, that puts a whole lot of pressure on people. People here are sad. This state, Utah, is one of the most overdose high, depression high, suicide high, all kinds of things. Their marital rates are bad. It's terrible. And that's because we all
Deuteronomy 32.
Yeah.
You know, the B'nai Ha Elohim, the sons of God that was given dominion over the peoples and the nations. It's an entity ruling over these people and pulling the strings and influencing the people.
Well, and who knows what they've done to the genetics with all that genetic stuff. That I did a whole genetics show on Bill Gates with that. And I'm telling you guys, that's why I say cabbage babies. Like, I mean, the babies that were being ordered by mail. I mean, the orphan trains ran by Freemasons. I mean, historical fact, not fun. I mean, DNA involvement. And they know things, you know, they just do. And the Mormon Church is very rich, very rich. And I mean, they're not too worried about people knowing. Yeah. Yep.
And
so,
Heidi, I'm sorry I got real quiet on you and stuff. Because
you're good.
It wasn't that I was nodding out over here. You had my full attention.
Little shocking.
This was something I've not really dove into. So I was in the constant state of mind blown.
That's okay. I don't mind at all. I just want people to know, you know, that when I got out of this, when I got out of Mormonism and I started really praying and I started really reading my Bible and I stopped doing a lot of nonsense and just like prayed to God to forgive me and teach me what I'm supposed to be, I became a lot better person. And my life got better. I got better. My family got better. You know, I was never more sick, more fat, or more depressed than when I was a Mormon. And, you know, I'm not going to blame all that on the church, but I'm just saying, like, I had cancer already. I mean, it was weird. Like, I was constantly sick, you know, and I still have some struggles to this day, like my back and stuff, but that makes more sense. I mean, there was a lot of things felt like curses on my life. And that's what I was trying to do, is break free. And you can, even if there's DNA corruption, it doesn't matter, because if we give our souls to God and he really knows us, I don't think I know as a parent, I could never look at my child that has no choice in the matter and would be like, psh, lake of fire for you, dummy, you know? No, you're not going to do that.
That's one thing I talked about too in the book, was even if you hold to, a serpent seed theology or doctrine, that doesn't mean they're automatically damned. You know, like the Ku Klux Klan and all these other guys said, that they're just subhuman. They were created to go into the gates of hell. Well, the Bible doesn't teach that, because even if this is true, you know, like I've told many people many times, I mean, to me, my good old boy logic, everything points that way. Mm-hmm. But it's not a hill I'm prepared to die on, but man, it makes a lot of sense. And it doesn't rob them of their free will, because even when you have Cain, I've just seen this not that long ago when I was reading into it, when Cain got upset and was even, I guess mentally debating on killing his brother, God goes to him and tries to talk, sense it to him and reason with him. He was like, if you do good, will you not succeed? And these emotions you're dealing with, you need to subdue them, because sin lies in wait at the door. So it's like he was, if he was a serpent seed damned to hell, why would God waste his time to talk to him and try to reason with him to control his emotions and make the right choice? Right.
And there's a book, and Nathan Reynolds came on my show and he said that, God came to preach the word to every living creature. Right. And so there's a book about that called, I think, Every Living Creature. But anyways, I believe that. I believe that if there is corruption, which, I mean, look at Americans, look at how different we look than a lot of people. Like, I believe that this was a great experiment here. And I believe that they knew exactly what they were doing when they did it. And so I have a whole presentation on that. It sounds funny because it's cabbage babies, but it'll make a whole lot more sense if you look into it. But yeah, it's weird. And I do think that Joseph Smith's line, there's something up there because we all look an awful lot alike. And you can kind of pick people out, and that's weird to me. So, but who knows?
Well, Heidi, thank you for coming and blowing my mind. I know you had me perplexed the whole time. I know a lot of our listeners will be too. For those that were just mind blown and fascinated and want to check out some of your other work that you reference and stuff, let everybody know where they can find you.
Absolutely. I'm Heidi Love. I'm everywhere podcasts are served. I do two shows a week on Spotify, but only once a week on like YouTube or whatever. Apple and all those get the twice a week, but YouTube just hates my stuff. And I just can't, I get dinged so much that I just gave up and I'm like, okay, they can have the PG show that I'm not going to get any more flags for because I don't want to lose my channel. So other than that, I also have unfilteredrisepodcast.com. You can find me there. And I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all the things. So find me at all those places.
All right, guys. Yeah, if you enjoyed that, be sure to check out Heidi. She, as you can see, well-researched, and she is not allergic to truth bombs, no matter how unpolitically correct they may be.
It's true.
So be sure to check her out and support her. And this will be the first of many conversations because I plan on having her back and having her educate me some more. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for having me on. I loved it. Yeah. Thanks again.
Yeah. Well, guys, be sure to hit that like button, hit that share button, share this with your friends and your family. And because this is some important stuff and it can get dark, it can get weird. But as you all know, on this hero's journey, the truth is often stranger than fiction. Well, guys, as always, torches high, and remember, the difference between knowing and the unknown is the journey. Good journey, guys.